Okay, so after having some severe difficulty with some of these screws, I went out and bought myself a little impact handheld impact screwdriver thing. If you're smart, you buy an electric one of these. This was about 20 bucks. The electric ones, or battery powered ones, sort of start at 100 for a cheap one kind of thing by the time you buy the battery and that. So the idea is you whack on the end with a hammer, and this, it's fairly weighty, and this actually twists as you hit it. So the idea is it drives into the screw and twists it. So kind of a bit like what I was trying to do with my hammer and screwdriver earlier, only a bit more sophisticated. So I'll give that a go. Put that into. There we go. You can see that easy. It's now loosened that nut off. Okay, so this is our, I call it a magneto or a stator. So, but like I said, the coils of wire in the flywheel was magnetised. You can see those little dots are magnetic. So hopefully that stator now just pops out of there. So that's what generates the current, that provides the spark, charges the battery, all that kind of stuff. It's like a little earth wire going through there. I'll just pop that off. Just put that over there. So there's our flywheel. And I've got a little puller. I'm going to just pop that off there, and that'll allow us to see what's going on in there. I might just put some gloves on before I get too dirty. The other thing I noticed when I pull that off, not sure if you can see that, is the gear shift lever, and it's really quite bent. So, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's been dropped at some point, and that's actually bent that lever. I'm thinking it'll still work. All it's got to do is rotate back and forth. The lever here, just throw that on. So as long as it doesn't leak oil, it should just still work, rotate back and forth. Put that up there, put that on there. So you can kind of see, here's the output shaft that goes off to the sprocket. Just make sure you guys can see that. Yep, it goes off to the chain that drives the back wheel, obviously. So at the moment we're spinning freely in neutral. Obviously that'll have all that the high low gear ratio onto it as well. So at the moment it's spinning. So if I pop it hopefully into first, you can see that's now not moving because it's in gear. So you'd need, and the clutch isn't, because the motor's not spinning, there's no clutch operating at the moment. So that's basically up through the gears, and then to go back down the gears, it's just a matter of down, and then into neutral, and then it spins free again. So that's hopefully how it works. So what I'll do, like I say, that clutch, so that gear lever is actually quite bent, but I'm gonna leave it alone. The idea is that in this case there's a little oil seal here. It's a little tapered seal that seals that off, stops the oil leaking out. That's my only concern, is if it's bent, that seal may not seal, but we'll see how we go. Put it back together. Worst case scenario, which is try and replace that bent shaft. And the reality is it's probably just about easier to buy a new motor than, a second-hand motor than it would be to try and just find that particular piece on its own. It's probably going to cost $40–50. So I'm going to see if I can get that. No, I don't know how that even works. Is that little actually I might just leave it there. I was going to say I was going to try and pull that little, I think it's just the earth lead from the stator. But it looks like it's actually just riveted on there. I'm not quite sure. There's so much gunge in there. I'm not quite sure how it's actually held in place, but I might leave that for now. I can work around that. So next thing I'm going to pull the flywheel off and just have a little look at how the tensioner for the chain works and that kind of stuff. And then we'll start on the other side. We'll pull the clutch case off. Okay, next up I'm going to try and pull this flywheel off. So I got myself a little puller here, so basically it fits into the shaft. The arms just fit around into the back of the flywheel, out of the way of the magnets. And it's just a matter of screwing the thread down. A bit of tension comes into it. There we go. And then just tightening it up What I might do is just pop that through, not that one, pop that through the piston there, just not that one either. Pop that through the piston just to stop it from, so it gives me a bit of something to hang on to, otherwise it will just spin the way around. There we go, tension. And that'll be it, fairly aggressively. That's not great. Okay, so there's the flywheel, fairly weighty. So there's the magnets, so that go past the coil there to generate the current. Quite a bit of weight, nice little piece of gear. One of the reasons I took the flywheel off is because I've actually dropped the chain off the little sprocket there. So without doing the flywheel, I was going to have to try and reach down the guts here and try and get it in there. So what we've got at the part, so this is the main, through the wire there. Main crankcase that actually obviously drives the piston up and down. You can see it sitting in some nice bearings there. So the cam chain, whoops, oh, I just broke that wire off. It's not a good thing either. Holy jolly. Okay, find where that came from. Actually, look at some of these wires, they're pretty gnarly looking. Just back at the video and see where that wire actually came from. So this little wheel here is driven by the chain. So that's got a little forked end on it. That actually goes through the other side of the crankcase, and I believe it drives the oil pump. So they use the cam chain to drive the oil pump, which then pushes the oil around. We'll pop that back in there. Just going to make sure we seat it into the right. And this on this side is the chain tensioner. So you can see there's a little spring here that pushes it around, and that then pushes onto this wheel, which pushes on the chain and gives you the required amount of tension. So there's actually a bolt on the outside here, you can adjust it, so you can push it through further. So push it around more or push it back, you know, if you need to take a bit of tension off there. But that's basically the tensioner for it. So that's about it inside on this side. I'm just going to clean this up a bit, put the case back on again, put the flywheel back on, start, I guess, cleaning some of this up again and start putting it back together again. On this side, find out where this wire came from. We'll go from there. You might remember earlier I had the stator or the magneto hanging on the top of the engine. It actually fell off and snapped the wire. I had to try and work out where that wire came from. So I jumped in the wiring diagram and learned a couple of things. One being, so where that wire came in, that's actually the neutral wire, so the neutral light switch. So when the bike's in neutral, there's a switch there that must engage that switch, and then runs power through to the on the speedo's a little green light that comes on when you're in neutral. And I think the bike won't start when it's not in neutral, so I think that switch needs to be on for the bike to start. Looking at the wiring diagram, it looks like it circuits through to the points. So then I had to try and find where that wire actually came from, and then I looked on the, I'll put the stator up here. It's not working, there we go. So on the actual plug, I don't know if you can see that, there we go. On the actual plug, that wire, you can just see it sticking through there. It was actually snapped off right on the plug. I've actually pushed it through a bit, so you can see it. So I'm going to have to strip that and then join it onto the other wire there so that we are back in business again. Okay, so here we are once again. Look at this, I've actually tidied up my bench and even wiped the oil off it. There's all the covers and things over there that I'm going to get to eventually. So I think we're pretty much done with this side of the engine at this stage, other than having to clean it all up. I'm actually going to leave soldering up. I pulled that wire out that I broke off. I pulled that out there. I'm actually going to leave that for now. I'll do that just as I'm starting to put the engine back again. I figure if I try and solder it now, there's a fair chance I'm just going to break it again when I bash something else. So my next job is to jump into this side of the go. So where the clutch housing is, and so on. So we're going to jump into this side, get those screws out with my new favourite tool, and we'll see what that looks like in there. Just going to try and clean these bottom ones up a bit. They're a bit gungy. I'll show you one of my earlier videos to Tracy, just to see what she thinks before I published it. And one of the comments she made was, one of the comments she made was, is that one of Jamie's nappies? So yeah, we had a whole stash of nappies, cloth nappies left over from when the kids were a little bit younger. So yeah, just the way she was that one of Jamie's nappies? And Jamie's now nearly 22, hasn't used a nappy in months now, so it's I kind of grabbed a couple just to use in the shed, much to her disgust. But they come in handy for all sorts of things because they're just a good size. But apparently I shouldn't be using them in the shed. I've got lots of other rags I should be using, but I just like these because they're nice and handy, good size, absorbent. I guess that's why they make nappies out of them. So I'm not sure what any of this stuff actually is in here, to be honest. Just leave that there. So I think it's a semi-automatic clutch, so there's no actual clutch lever you engage. I think when it's spinning at idle, the clutch might be engaged. As you increase the revs, I think the centrifugal force pushes so it might do something to this, might push this out of the way, and that might disengage the clutch so that the gears engage. There's a little lever at the back here, I don't know if you can see that. So that'll be where the gear lever engages, and then it has a little thing up here, at the top here. I actually don't think I want to pull this apart, again because I'll need a puller to get the clutch housing off. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that alone, other than have to look at the manual as to how these little bits go back in again. Okay folks, next plan is to pull the valves out and start cleaning up the head. So to do that, I'm going to take these rocker arms out. So there's two pins here that pull out. Take the rocker arms out, and then I'm going to try and get the valve spring compressed. There's two little clips that hold the valve, and I'm going to see if I can pop those out. See if that. Okay, so what I've done here, I've made just had a bit of brass pipe, and then cut a slot in it, and I just used a clamp, G-clamp. The idea is to compress the valve stem spring, and there's two little clips in there that you probably can't see. See if I can get in there. No, actually I can't see that. Two little clips in there that hold the valve in place. So I'm just trying to compress it down so I can pop those little clips out and then pull the valve out. Okay, so I've got some lightning out, so you can just see those little the little silver cone shaped thing. That's what holds the valve in place. So I thought I'd finish this video off with something completely unrelated to the engine, and just in my spare time, contemplation time, I've been sort of looking at what I want to do with the bike and for the future down the track, what that might look like. So I pulled the seat and fuel tank off. So as you can see, the seat's in pretty rough condition. So the idea is the seat just tilts up and there's a fuel tank underneath. And at the bottom of the fuel tank you've got two outlets. One's for the reserve, one's for the regular fuel. Basically the regular one has the tube is a bit higher up, and then once that's run out you've got a little bit of fuel left in the bottom. And you flip the reserve, then that reserve tube's a bit lower in the tank, just allows you to drain that last, I don't know what it would be, 500 mil, whatever's in the reserve tank, just to get you to wherever you need to get to. So I pulled that off. I'm hoping not to use that. So my plan is to weld a bar across kind of where that level is sitting, and have it level. At the moment the bike's on the centre stand, so the back wheel's a bit higher. But you have something like that that sort of sits level there, then have the tank, mount the tank on the front of that, and then put the seat on the back. And I think also probably cut away the back mudguard a little bit. So I'll just put my tank, which is there. Hopefully it'll stay. No, it won't. And my seat. There. So that's kind of the look I'm going for, with a little tank on the front, and then a fairly thin, I guess, upholstered seat on the back there, different handlebars. I think that'll look fairly cool in the frame, maybe painted black, not sure yet, with a black engine sitting in there as well. So that's kind of what I'm heading towards with the plan. But at this stage, obviously, got to get the engine up and running first. But that's in my sort of non-engine time. I've kind of been playing around with some shapes and ideas and what that might look like and how that might go together. So yeah, I might call this video quits for now, and then we'll come back shortly with what's happening next. So here's Molly. I thought we'd just finish up the video with a little shot of Molly. She's once again a happy dog. Basically just sits outside the shed while I work and watches me and wags a tail. Or not. Wags a tail, wags a tail, wags a tail. Yes.